This is not a test. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. Your current broadcast has been taken over by 4 grown men that still play video games. These men will be attempting to give you the latest news, rumors, and factual information on this week's hottest gaming topics. We ask that you remain calm, have a sense of humor, and try to listen to various opinions without getting upset.
Welcome everyone to the very first episode of LootChestRadio. We have lots to discuss tonight, but first, I am Jay Fonzarelli, just one of the hosts here on LCR. We have 4 hosts total, so let's get to them, and maybe, guys, give a little brief gaming history on yourselves.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Nate here. I started actually on the Atari with my grandpa playing some Pong back in the day. Started there. I didn't have, a little poor growing up, so my grandpa had that, so I kind of played that with him. And then we moved on to the Nintendo, and then we went to the Super Nintendo. I actually had a funny story with my first console I ever bought. I actually saved my my lunch money that my mom gave me in junior high, and I stowed that away, and then I ate food off my friend's plate for a couple months, and I saved up for a Super Nintendo. So that's the first one system that I bought. I bought a 64, and then I've been pretty much Xbox from there. Xbox original, 360, and then the Xbox One.
Nice.
That's me.
Nice. How about you, Enrique?
Where's Roach? I just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. My Where's Roach voice, or my Geralt voice. I'm old, like Nate. I've been gaming forever. Started off in the Atari 2600 playing little Space Invaders. If you guys remember that game.
Yep.
And Pac-Man and Pitfall and God, what else was I playing at the time? E.T., Galaga. God, I can go on. Pole Position. God, I can go on and on. And then a little bit of ColecoVision. Did a little bit of that. Okay. Television. And just and after that just got hooked. I mean, I started gaming when I was really young, so I've been doing this for 35 years, 36 years.
Yeah, me too, man. You're as old as I am then. Yeah. We're old.
I mean, just it's funny when I hear people say, "Oh my God, 4K is such a big, it's revolutionary." I'm like, no, it's not. Like I've been I've had the privilege, I guess, to at least from a historical perspective, really witness some of the like monumental changes in gaming.
That's true.
Going from what we saw with the Atari in terms of graphics to some of these side-scrolling games that Nintendo had with the 8-bit era. And then from 8-bit to 16-bit, and then from 2D side-scrollers to really just 3D.
Yeah.
Those were, huge steps in gaming. We really saw at that time, we really saw what I would say like just revolutionary changes in the way we played and experienced video games that we haven't seen since, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy going from like Atari 2600 to even 16-bit generation. That it's a huge leap, and it's probably one that's more so than going from 720p to 4K even. So, I mean, we there's a lot of differences there. Kevin, what's up with you, man?
Started gaming, I think, when I was 5, 1990, my 5th birthday. My mom had purchased me a NES, and ever since then, man, I got sucked in. And it was Super Nintendo, Sega at the same time. Always had both consoles in the house. Only console I didn't have was a Sega CD or Sega Saturn. But good times, man. Actually, funny story. When I first got my NES, it was like 7 a.m. when I loaded it up, and I couldn't jump over the first pipe, and I asked my mom to help. Yeah, she did it, and then ever since then, man, I was just renting games, and that's when you had those local mom and pop rental spots, and used to grab games from there, and just enjoy. I just lost myself, man. Ever since then, I think the first console I bought by myself was the original Xbox, and the original, not the original, but the PlayStation 2 Fat. It was a fun time, man, and ever since then, I've been gaming.
Yeah. I have a similar story to Enrique. Started with the Atari 2600 back in 1982. So I'm going way back with that. And Pac-Man was the very first game I can remember playing. I mean, I might have played something in the arcades prior, but I really don't remember before that. I think it was Pac-Man for sure, and was hooked ever since, man. So every console that would come out, I'd beg mom and dad to buy it, and, we didn't have a lot of money, but somehow they made it work, and they'd buy us the new consoles, and sometimes they'd be a year later after they were out or whatnot, but we always had some form of video games to play in the house. And I went through the Sega CDs. The very first thing I ever bought, though, for on my own was the 3DO, the Panasonic 3DO, and it was like almost $700, and it was a total waste of money. It really was. Samurai Showdown was a great game, but there wasn't many things on that system. And it's funny because the systems that I had bought early on my own were failed systems. A lot of the Sega systems, they all failed. The Dreamcast is still my all-time favorite console, though, by far.
Great console.
Gaming news.
So let's get into this whole thing about PUBG, guys. Now, of course, yesterday some news came out that the Xbox One X version of PUBG was going to be 60 frames per second, leaving behind the S to only run at 30. But today, the same developer comes out and says, no, guys, it's going to run 30 on all devices, the Xbox devices. So what do you guys feel about this? What is going on here?
Well, I don't want to speculate too much. I mean, I know there's some folks out there that think that maybe this is a situation where maybe Microsoft intervened, but my understanding is that they are still looking to bring the game as close as possible to 60 frames on the X. And I can understand to an extent why people might be a little upset too, where one day it's okay, the Xbox One X is going to be 60. And the Xbox One X owners are those of us that have the X are excited, and then to come out that the less than 24 hours later, find out that's not the case. I can understand some people being upset, but I guess just situation where you got to wait and kind of see what happens. They're still tinkering with the game. It does release next week, and it's going to be in early access, so it's essentially a beta, more or less, and we'll see where they take the game. If and I feel like this: if it's a situation where you're upset that if it's not 60 on the X and you want 60 and you don't want to play it at 30, then you don't buy it. Yeah. Or you just gift it to someone. I mean, I'm not buying it next week. I'm actually going to wait until the game's actually, because it doesn't run well right now.
Yeah,
like even on PC, it runs like shit.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend that's a big PC guy, and he was telling me the same thing. He was like, you know what? If that thing runs at 60, this was yesterday, of course. He said if it runs at 60, it's going to be a very choppy 60 because on PC right now, it's having a hard time on some high end systems. So the game's just not optimized right now, and it might be a case where this developer just spoke too soon. Maybe didn't speak with the rest of the guys before he did this interview. I don't know.
I did a video on this on my channel, so I have a lot to say about this for sure.
All right, go ahead, Nate.
Brandon Green is known as player unknown. Okay, so he's not some lower tier programmer, that spoke at a random interview. This guy is the creator of PUBG. So he was in this interview. And he was asked, is this going to run 60 frames on the X? And he said, yeah, definitely on the Xbox One X, 60 frames per second. On the Xbox One, we're not sure. So it's not like he was, speaking out of his, rear end. Yeah. He knows that this game runs at 60 frames. Back in July, when they first got their hands on, the system and the Xbox One X, they were able to hit 40 frames doing nothing to the system. I mean, just basic. Yeah, so 40 frames back in July, and then Xbox sent engineers over to Blue Hole Studios, and they were able to work on it and optimize it. And the counter argument for how bad it runs on PC is, on consoles, it's a closed system. They're able to do different things to optimize the game. So I believe that he made this statement, and the word got out, and Microsoft obviously wasn't, keen to the idea of him saying this, because let's be honest, he's the developer, they're the publisher, they have the final say. And we've seen, before from execs like Shannon Loftus, she talked about frame rates, and she said when it comes down to it, they're going to try to keep it on the same level. So I think this comes down to Microsoft coming out and saying, hey, we didn't give you the go to say this is going to be 60 on the X. I could be wrong, and it might be that it be the case, but I think comes down to the fact that they don't want to leave the S behind because that's their main seller right now, and it would just be counterproductive for them. That's the problem with the mid-gen refresh at this point, because you have this system, the Xbox One X, that is a powerful system that's $500. It's a premium console, and it could be considered a next-gen console if they would have marketed it that way. But since it's a mid-gen console, they can't treat it that way, so they're kind of stuck, in between a rock and a hard place. So it's interesting.
That. I mean, yeah, I can see that. Kevin, what's your thoughts, man?
It's a little, I don't know, man. I think the bottleneck between 30 and 60 is the new wave, the new craze, and everybody wants more frames, and there's some others that don't, you know what I mean? But as for me, I would pick 60 all day. Just a more fluid experience. But I think they would have been safer if they would have said, hey, this game's running on 30 on all Xbox platforms, but that subject to change later. You know what I mean? Like, put it in there that maybe we can update it, because the game's in preview, so they can always come out with new updates and new patches to fix certain things. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
they would have been safer doing it that way. I mean, retracting your statement within 24 hours is mind-boggling to me.
It's bad.
I don't necessarily. I mean, it's bad. I mean, you have some people. We all know some people are even retracting their purchases, because they said 60, and that was more of a concrete thing for them, like a selling point, to go ahead and purchase the game. Me, I mean, I watched a couple friends play it. I've played it. And every time I played it, it's always been high frames. So it feels good that way. Going to 30 due to the game still in game preview, and there's still a lot of bugs and glitches in the game, slapped on with 30 frames per second, I can see more problems being more problematic for the game, as a whole.
Really?
Because the game, like H1Z1, I think that game's still in game preview, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm not too familiar with it.
It is.
It's been like 3-4 years later, right?
Yeah, it's just like DayZ. Those things are like stuck in preview,
And I think obviously, I think they're doing that just they don't want. I don't know if they're being. It has to be laziness. There's no way a game stays in preview for almost 5 years. Like, that's crazy. Iron all the kinks out, put the game out, and get it done. I think this game will stay in preview a while too. Just because they can always make changes, and anything needs to happen, they won't be held so much accountable because, quote unquote, preview beta.
Exactly.
I would like to see the game at 60. It's a very, I don't know. When I look at the game, the map is huge, right? So I don't know if they can do 60. If they said they could, maybe they did 40, 50. I don't think it was a lock 60 the whole time. Not on console, maybe 40 to 50 frames. And they said, like Salty said, what was it? 30 to 40 frames within the first week with that dev kit, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So evidently the frames were on their way up. So I think I think we'll see a higher frame rate mode maybe, or implement it in the game in the future. I don't see it right now as they stated. So hope for the best, man. I mean, $29. I mean, it's one of the most popular games online right now. So if you want to press your luck, go ahead, man. I'm pretty sure you won't be that disappointed if you're into that type of game.
Is the general consensus here that they had retracted this 60 frames because maybe the community was in uproar about there being a disparity there, maybe 60 versus 30 on the same brand of console there?
It's not clearly stated as such, but I think it comes down to where you stand. Are you, for frame rate parity? Are you against it?
Yeah.
Some of these, I've had a lot of contact with some people on Twitter, and a lot of people just don't understand what is really going on. I mean, someone was saying that it was Shannon Loftus's fault, and I'm like, dude, she wasn't involved in this. She was, So there's a lot of misinformation out there, obviously, on the internet, and people just don't like to put in the time to actually read an article every now and again, and that's the big issue.
And I think that's the thing there about articles, because Shannon Loftus, she was just, I don't know how old this article was, but there was an article written where she had mentioned the fact that there was going to be frame rate parity across the S and the X. Now,
it was in June.
Okay, this June. And maybe that's what they're alluding to. So for me personally, I look at the situation and I'm half tempted to go along with the narrative that it is because of outcry from some of these people that might own a base Model 1 or an S. I don't know. I kind of lean that way, but part of me thinks maybe he just spoke too soon. Maybe,
you know what? To add on to that, I think that one Twitter post is not going to do it. They're going to have to be more vocal about this and really get some details ironed out later on.
Yeah, they need to
one
explain.
tweet's not going to do it.
They need to explain why. You know what I'm saying? If it can't hit the 60 frame target, let us know. Just tell us. Be frank about it. Don't sit there and say, it's going to be 30 frames across all the Xbox devices.
But Jay, we have to give him credit. I do give him credit that he's upfront about it before the game launches, because like EA and all that stuff doing things behind our back, and not telling us is worse.
But a 180 within a 24-hour time span is bad.
That's spooky.
Jay, the thing is we all know that Microsoft has lots of issues internally. It's not a secret at this point.
No, it's not. I
think that the communication situation is probably one of the worst.
And I would just want to make note here, Nate, that you were an Xbox guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people will see me and they see my channel, and I report Xbox news.
Yeah, but
I'm not an Xbox fanboy. Okay, if they're doing stuff that doesn't, it's not right or it's not working, I call it out. That's the thing. You know, I might lean towards that console, but I'm a gamer, and that's the thing that we need to focus on.
Facts.
As someone who owns X, I would like to see games be like run at their best and not be held back by the S. Yeah. Personally, I mean, I say that, and I say that selfishly because I invested, money into this.
But I don't think it's selfish, especially when the brand owners had marketed this as such a premium console with premium features.
Yeah, and they did say, we're going to leave it up to the developers too. I mean,
that's true.
So, I hope that it's not a situation, behind the scenes where, they're saying, oh, well, you know what, we're saying this to the public, but, behind the scenes, we're saying something else different. If that's the case, and I'm just purely speculating here, if something like that was going on, that's not good. That's not good. It doesn't put Microsoft in a good situation.
Yeah, as far as that goes, I'm with you on the X. I really want to see this console perform its best, and if it can hit 60, I would love that. At the same time, though, I'm on record as saying this as well back months ago when we were talking about this situation, and I said that the X will be at 30 frames, partly because I think of the issues it was having on PC. It's struggling, to stay at 60, but also because I thought that having that disparity there between the 30 and the 60, I thought that would give an unfair advantage to those that own the X, and I didn't think they would do that for an online competitive game. Now, I still kind of feel that way, but because if you look at these single player games that are coming out now, there's some that actually have a 60 frames per second mode.
But Jay, like in my mind, it's like, that's not my problem. Like if someone has an S, that's not my issue.
Yeah,
it's true.
I could respect
that's why
that
I said,
too.
I mean, like, selfishly, like, it's like, look, that's not,
I can definitely respect that, man. I can definitely.
If I'm on PC and I got a 1080 Ti and an i7 core processor, it's like, it's like, hey, sorry.
and I don't disagree with you, because I'm not saying that I didn't think they would do this strictly because of those are my beliefs. I think that they shouldn't have the advantage. I'm just saying more from a business standpoint. When I look at Microsoft, or if this was Sony in this case, for them to sort of do this with an online competitive game like this, it could divide their fan base. And I get that, but at the same time, I'm totally with you. Owning an X, I'd like it to perform at its peak.
I think where this all stems from is the competitive shooter aspect, because when people really get down, like I'm a first person shooter at heart. I play all the games, like Overwatch and COD and Battlefield, name them all. That's my main bread and butter when it comes to gaming. The people that have the biggest problem with FPS is competitive shooters. And it's true. It's just like if there's a FPS difference, they complaining about it because it does provide an advantage. See, when the developer talked about it, he said, the frame rate disparity wouldn't be noticed as much in PUBG because it's not a fast twitch shooter. Yeah. And that's kind of right, to a certain extent, but this is the issue. This is like, I don't see them doing this in any form or shape other than, first person shooters, because that's where people have the issue. It's not like they're going to let developers get as much, use the power and do what they want when it comes to like first person, narrative driven games that are open world. Sure, do whatever you can, because that's going to be across the board. But when it comes to these shooters, that's where people have the biggest issue, so that's the problem.
Yep. Let's talk about Destiny 2, guys. Yes, Destiny 2 is in the news. The developer says that they betrayed their player base after quietly scaling an XP system in which players weren't getting all the XP they earned, or should have earned, mind you. So apparently, after level 20, it was really notable. They found this out on Reddit, I guess. Somebody crunched some numbers and found out that, they weren't getting the XP they were promised. So basically, after you hit level 20, you get these bright engrams. Those of you that play, Nate, you get these bright engrams, and in these bright engrams, you can get ships, mods, or even shaders. Now, I want to make note that you can also buy these bright engrams with real money. So that's a very key thing here. Enrique, I want to start with you here. What's going on with this Destiny 2 and this whole XP thing?
Well, I think Destiny has an in-game problem, number one. And I'm not... I guess the only reason I could even think of why they would mess with the XP or throttle it is that they want more engagement, and I think engagement's been an issue with this game compared to the Destiny 1, if I'm not mistaken. I think the player engagement's kind of dropped off from the previous Destiny. I think, I was kind of surprised that Bungie has been kind of quiet to this point, giving some of the issues that Destiny 2's had. Like, I'm really surprised that they haven't been engaged with the community as much. I'm glad that they recognized it.
Yeah.
And they came out and said something about it. And I'm not saying it's too little too late, but this is something that they probably should have addressed a long time ago. And not only that, they did fix the XP problem, but then they also kind of messed it up too, because they increased, I think, the amount of XP points now you need to gain.
Yep, that's fact.
So it's like, okay, well, you guys fixed it, but then you increased it. So how does that really fix anything, really?
It's like same difference, right?
Yeah. So, and they acknowledge that there's an end game problem, but there's some really like trivial things like with the update. Like they talked about, so I think the first update comes out next week, December 5th. And actually that's going to include I believe that's going to include a patch for the Xbox One X.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
4K patch.
Is it HDR2?
Yeah, I do believe so. It is.
Yeah, HDR is coming in with that.
Okay.
So it's going to be HDR 4K. They're going to tweak some different things with that patch, but there's just some like trivial things that that I'm surprised that were in Destiny 1 that aren't in the game now. I think they're bringing back the random heroic strikes or something.
Yeah, they're also bringing back like new weapons and stuff. They're trying to implement more of an end game system there that is lacking right now.
But then it's like, but why? But like, why? I mean, this is the part that kind of frustrates me with them a little bit. It's like this isn't like your first rodeo with this game.
Exactly.
And I don't understand the mindset, and I don't understand like why or how we got to this point with them, because this isn't like their first rodeo with Destiny. This isn't, I would probably expect this more with the first Destiny than with Destiny 2. And I'm just surprised. And I really hope, I think moving forward, that they stay engaged with the community more. because I think that's how you're really going to create more engagement.
But that's the sad part, and it's confusing to me because they have a strong communication system with the community, and they've got their own forums and stuff, and they're constantly in there checking them and talking to the community. So I don't know how much more they needed. I mean, for me, the way I look at this, it seems to just ooze greed to me. Like that's what I see from this. Especially,
I feel like there's a battery in their backs,
yeah,
by Activision to perpetuate a take all their money situation, and it's kind of hard and jarring to come from me, and I think Jay, you come from an MMORPG background as well.
Yeah.
And just seeing how I was playing that for about 8 years to come to Destiny and be really interested. Look, they did everything I wanted. They did the RPG, they did the shooter, and they had a baby. That's what I've always wanted in a game.
Yeah.
And they did that, but coming from an MMORPG standpoint, or having those glasses on, you can see what's taken out and cut out and not fully thought out type of gameplay. Not gameplay, but end game. It's like it's not there. When it comes to the end game, it's like in WoW and other MMORPGs, is when the raids are over, they'll come out with the hard mode, and Destiny did that. But then there was always loot to get, and there was always add loot to the game, and just create some perpetual grind to keep you, there. And that should have been implemented in all the raids, so you would never feel, that you have nothing to do. And I think with throttling, I guess they see the numbers and they see it's not as, people are not being attached to the game as much as Destiny 1. Because there was a dry period in Destiny 1 where I think I stopped playing for about 5 months, until TTK came out.
Yeah.
And, I thought that was very robust. It felt full. It felt like, yeah, this is why I play this game. It gave me more verification. Like, yeah, I made the right choice. With this, I feel like, the game came out with September. So what, 2 months, 3 months before, some more DLC. And I don't think this DLC has a raid intact, does it?
It has a raid. I have a lot to say about this.
Okay.
I think it's a raid-like situation. I don't think
they're using Leviathan as the hub world for raids. Okay. So let's just get it started with Bungie, okay? I was as big as a fan as all you guys, and I put, 1,500 hours into the first Destiny, but slowly but surely I kind of figured out what Bungie was about. Bungie is about reskinning, everything from weapons to reusing items to, cutting material out of the base game and selling it to you as DLC. That's the beginning of the problem, but it doesn't surprise me at all that they, went behind the scenes and, changed the XP, because honestly, when I saw these bright engrams, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm getting these a lot more than I would be, because they're trying to make money. That's the end game, because Activision is pulling the strings, behind, closed doors. But the thing is, they have a raid, quote unquote, for this new, DLC. But you're going back to the Leviathan and you're fighting the same enemy. They can't even give us a new enemy.
Yeah. That's bad.
So that's the problem. You would think that after 3 years from the first game that they would learn from their mistakes, but no, they took out all the things that they changed and modified about the first game that the community, complained about. And then all of a sudden Destiny 1 comes out and, there's no rerolls on weapons. There's no, strike playlists, with scores. It's like, what happened to you guys? I'm as jaded as anybody else.
Let me ask you a question, Salty. The thing that made me disconnect from the game the most, and I don't know if you felt this way too, but when they did the whole token system with everything in the game, I completely felt disconnected from the game.
Yeah.
I didn't feel rewarded. Like when I killed the boss, like nothing drops. It just felt really just not rewarding to me at all. You know what I mean?
Yep. The token system is it just feels like a disconnect. I feel like Activision came to them and they're like, okay, we need more people to buy Destiny 2. So you guys need to dumb down this game for the casuals. You need to make it accessible to everybody, because in Destiny 1, a lot of people complained because, they had to do the Vault of Glass to hit that end game, light level. And people felt like they could never achieve that because it was up to RNG. But that's what it's about. That's what the grind is about. That's what, kept people coming back to the game over and over.
Yeah.
So they took that aspect out, and then they added, they're basically giving away awards for free, right? You don't have to do the raid. If you're part of a clan, we'll give you a weapon for free or a piece of armor.
Yeah.
Now, what about this? Let's say this game was an expansion, right? And you have this piece of software acts like its own platform, right? So you got VOG, you got Taken King, you got Crota, still intact with this new expansion and the Leviathan raid. That's the big grand scheme of things, right? You would think that all that content will be as one, and it'd be this huge open game, and they can patch things in to make you want to go back and play those raids for new gear or new light level, just everything. I felt like that was the plan, and somewhere it got lost in translation, and they end up cutting it to make more money off a sequel.
Of course.
Here's the kicker, though. They plan on releasing that content. They're just holding it back to give it to us in sections. Because it's been data mined that they're going to bring back the Dreadnought. They're going to bring back
that makes a lot of sense.
The fact of the matter is if you look at the gear problem or the weapon problem or the loot problem, more than half of the items that I got in Destiny 2, I was getting in Destiny 1.
Yep.
So, that lowers the amount of loot that you're getting excited for. And then the exotics that I did get weren't exotic.
It's not the problem of reusing old worlds or whatnot, because this is done in MMOs across the board. This is done in one of the biggest, World of Warcraft. I used to play it all the time, and I'm telling you, you go through the same worlds over and over. You go through a lot of the same raids over and over. However, what they do is they add more items to go after, and that is what Bungie is lacking here. That is the biggest thing. It seems like nowadays these MMOs, all games really, are sort of just catering to more of a microtransaction system. And with these bright Ingrams being involved here, and the fact that this XP is dramatically, or was scaling lower after you hit level 20, that just gives me more incentive to believe that it was these bright Ingrams that they wanted people to buy with their money, because there was emotes and stuff that people were really going after that they weren't getting maybe, and maybe they might spend that couple dollars or $5, whatever it is, to buy some bright Ingrams. I just see that the whole monetary aspect of these things just really intruding on our games, and it's getting so bad lately.
So let us recap. New essential Star Wars story. Multiplayer across all 3 Star Wars eras. Space battles. Split screen co-op. And free content that will keep us playing together for years to come.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just telling you guys, like,
Simon and Garfunkel, I love it.
This is where gaming is going. Like, she forgot to mention, like, yes, you get all that free stuff, but what about the microtransactions linked to the progression system in this game? It's crazy what has happened to gaming right now. Some new news came out about EA. Yes, more stuff is just dropping on the heads of EA lately concerning Battlefront 2. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but somebody data mined this game, and they found that there is a customization menu hidden that could be opened up later that lets you customize these troopers and these just the different characters in the game. But it's funny they're doing this because just the other day they said that they didn't want to do skins for the game as part of the loot box system, the star cards, because they wanted to follow canon. They didn't want to deviate from the Star Wars canon, which this whole customization menu that has just been brought up totally just demolishes that argument, that excuse. What do you guys think about what's going on with EA?
I think, for the most part, I think a lot of people will be more liking or maybe taking it at ease of the situation if they were more upfront about things they're implementing in the game. They shouldn't be telling you one thing, the next thing you see, it costs $6 to push start. I just think they need to be more upfront with all these microtransactions, the whole progression system. They didn't mention it one time in any of those quote unquote content trailers or anything like that. We didn't know anything about that.
Or when they were yelling on stage about things were going to be completely free. You guys are going to get free maps. You guys are going to get free, star cards, or certain characters, and the star cards aren't free. But there's just all kinds of
I was just gonna say this game just should have been $29.99, maybe $39.99.
No, it should have been a free to play game.
Make it a little bit.
It should have been free to play
if they were going to
if they were going to put these star cards the way they were implemented into the game. That is the biggest issue here. I know, Nate, you got a lot to say about this. What do you say, man?
All right. Well, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and so I'm not going to back EA and what they're doing at all. I feel like we've said this before. The new Star Wars movies coming out, The Last Jedi. And let's be honest, Star Wars fans, if you got a box and you painted the right Star Wars art on there, they'd snatch that up on eBay, So the thing is, Star Wars fans, they saw them as suckers. They saw gamers as suckers. And they're like, well, we got the first game out and we didn't even have, a campaign. So we were able to push that game out with no campaign and people still bought it. So like, well, we want to push it further. Let's put microtransactions in there, and not just microtransactions. We're going to put, these star cards in here, which is the base of progression and the base of everything in that game. And people are going to be able to buy these loot crates, and it will be okay because it's Star Wars. And that's just the bottom line if you look at it.
Yeah.
So they were just like, let's just see how far we can push it because this is Star Wars. And that's the problem, when it comes to the customization thing and the fact that, let's just say, Overwatch, for example, you got skins and you can have a variety of different skins and there's really no limits there, because there's no canon. I understand their aspect there, like a stormtrooper from, episodes, where Luke Skywalker's there. You don't have that many variations, let's be honest, okay? There's like white, there's black. When it goes into the clone era, you do have a lot of different colors. But that's their fault. That's their fault. That's their problem. It's not our problem,
But
if you said go ahead.
If you look at any of these Star Wars games that have come out, like they've never truly followed canon to the T anyway. I mean, that's just such a cop-out excuse.
Yeah, I do have to point this out, okay? Disney, they bought Star Wars, okay? They control everything. So if you look at The Force Unleashed, when that came out, that wasn't Disney. So back in that day, when LucasArts had it, you could do whatever you want, You had free reign. But with the Star Wars IP, they control everything. If you want to do anything with Star Wars as the brand, you have to get it approved by Disney.
Let me ask you something. Did Disney own them when they had that one game where Han Solo's dancing? I think it was Connect Star Wars or something.
I'm not sure, but I do know for a fact when it's like canon storylines and it's a canon game, which Star Wars Battlefront is.
Yeah, but you can you can essentially fight your own wars and do different things within this game alone. Battlefront 2, you can have Luke Skywalker fight, Darth Maul.
Yeah, but they're not saying that that's a story within the Star Wars universe.
I know.
So you're able to fight in different locations that, let's say, Rey would never go or hasn't ever been to Naboo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's within the realm of the game. Within the storyline, the campaign that's in the game, that's within canon. And then the character models themselves, that's within canon as well. That's what needs to be canon.
Okay, so the customization system that they have going on, does that all follow canon, the secret?
It has to be canon because you can't just make a blaster up. Let's just say like you wanted to make a blaster and you wanted to put some weird paint job on there. If that doesn't exist in the Star Wars universe, that's out of canon. All the blasters, all the lightsabers, all the characters, the voices, everything, that's all within canon. And a lot of people don't understand the rules behind that. And it's, that's Disney flexing their muscles. That's why Disney came in when all this negative publicity was coming out and they said, you need to get your stuff together or we're pulling your license.
Yeah. But you could have different characters from different worlds and stuff being rebel fighters and stuff in this customization menu and stuff. It doesn't seem like it follows it to a T in a way. I don't know.
I mean, I'm big into gaming, but I'm almost as big into Star Wars. That's the thing. Like,
yeah. No, I trust you, man.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, they decided to make this game. So it's not gamers' fault that they don't have a way to monetize their microtransactions based off of cosmetics only, because that's why they're kind of screwed. You know, they can't have a loot box where Ray's wearing some like pink outfit and some weird mask. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let me ask
they
you.
Can't do that.
Let me ask you this one thing then. Do you think they could have put any kind of skin in these star cards that could have worked and followed canon?
I feel like they could have. I feel like there could have been a way for them to work with Disney and find a way to customize these characters in a way that would have,
or at least just not
fallen within canon.
At least just not have tied the whole progression system into the loot boxes. Essentially, that's what really ruined it here. Enrique, what do you say, man?
Well, I agree with you, Jay. Like what you just said, like not tie the progression system into a loot box system. I think that is where they got their hand slapped. You know, as Nate said, you know, Disney's very protective of this franchise, as they should be, considering the amount of money they paid for Star Wars. This is their baby, and you know, the whole thing with like with loot crates and everything, like you know, I'm not necessarily a big fan of them, especially when it's a pay to win type situation, and I think that's what EA was trying to do here. But, you know, at the same token, these things aren't going anywhere. And I think that, and not to get on my soapbox here, I just think that gamers need to be aware and vigilant of how these companies are going to implement a loot crate system or microtransactions, because they're not going anywhere. And I say they're not going anywhere because there's a market for it.
Yep.
I mean, there's the numbers, the data show us that there's demand for this stuff. Thank you, casual gamers.
Right.
You know, they're seriously, I mean, they're the ones that are buying this up. There's a market for people who don't have time to invest in games. And I mean, you see it. I don't know if you guys are playing Assassin's Creed Origins, but you see it in that game.
Yep.
You know, you've seen it in other games like Battlefield. So it's not a situation. It's not a thing that's going to go away. I just think that we need to be vigilant about it and just make sure that, you know, companies aren't being egregious about how they implement the system. Yeah. And it was good to see that, you know, gamers spoke out with Battlefront. And then I got to the point where Disney kind of stepped in and said, hey, you know what, guys, this isn't good. Now, you know, we're getting bad press and the game hasn't even released yet. This could have a potential negative impact on sales. Although Michael Pachter thinks otherwise, but that's probably another conversation.
Yeah, well, he always thinks something otherwise, right? I mean,
yeah, but I think Nate brings up a good point though, like the whole canon system, like or things, you know, having to be within that Star Wars universe. I never thought about that up until you just mentioned it. I think it's a great point.
It is a good point, but I just think that they could have done something involving skins. Of course, I mean you can follow canon, but do something there. But they chose not to. They chose to go with the progression route because obviously they chose greed, in my opinion.
It's a really shady business practice, man. For example, Battlefield 1. I felt like those microtransactions in that game were kind of fair. You would just pay money to unlock a class with those weapons accordingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like you would bet. That was like Battlefield.
Yeah, like Battlefield. Yeah. I think that's fair. We can agree, right? That's not that bad. You know, if you don't feel like leveling the class up to like 20 to unlock, you know, some new weapons and attachments is cool. Just pay $5 and unlock the whole kit. But this on the other hand, these star cards. I mean, say if you like the assault class or the officer class, all these loot crates that you're opening are RNG, all of them.
Yeah.
So the class you particularly like to play, you might not even get anything for it. Even if you spend $50 on it, you might not get one star card that you want.
That's true.
So in a way, that is kind of like gambling, right or wrong. I mean, you're throwing dice and whatever you lands. Like, I get the uproar and it needs to happen. We all need to speak with our wallets. And as you've seen from some of the Twitter pictures, the game was sitting. The game didn't go on sale. No, I think they need to get downvoted. You know what I mean? This doesn't need to be let them show us. I mean, let's show them that, you know, we don't like this stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. And, you bring up the gambling aspect of it. For me personally, I believe that some of these loot boxes, these things are a form of gambling. They're very predatory. They target people that are more susceptible to being more compelled or have a compulsion to buy, spend, or children even. Children are getting hold of their parents' credit cards and whatnot and spending money on this stuff. And it's a real issue. And that is something that's being looked into. I mean, the Belgian government's already come out and said that they find that it is gambling. Other countries and even our states here are looking into the situation as well. I know not everybody agrees with me that think it's a form of gambling, but it's something that I think that regardless of how you feel about it, I think it should be regulated to some degree. Not necessarily saying the government should step in and regulate this, because I think that's the last thing I would want, to be done. I think that government regulation is always the last thing. But if we can do this somehow, maybe some. I really don't depend on the ESRB at all, because they are mainly funded by these companies. So I don't think that they have us in their best interest. But as far as this goes, I just think it needs to be regulated. I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts?
Let me ask all you guys a question really quick. Do you guys think that by them taking all the microtransactions out, will they dial it back a lot, or will it be just kind of the same, just maybe a cheaper price, or take fewer hours to earn the credits to unlock what you need?
I could see them scaling back on the hours. I think that was probably the biggest complaint to it, that it almost felt like they were forcing people to spend money because of how long the grind took.
Right.
My opinion, I see them doing more of scaling back how long it takes, as opposed to dumbing down or scaling back on the loot system.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. But Jay, real quick, the ESRB, that's an interesting point you made. They are an association. You mentioned that they're funded by the industry. That's interesting, because they're the ones who look at this stuff and say that, and they've even said that they don't feel like it's gambling.
Yeah. Well, of course.
So that's just, I guess,
we know all about politics and lobbyists and everything else. It's just one of those things where politics play a big part in gaming.
I personally, I don't want the government involved.
Nope.
In something like this. I mean, I lived through that, in the mid to late 90s, with gaming and why we have the ESRB now. But you agree. We'll see. I mean, hopefully it doesn't get to the point where they have to step in. I mean, hopefully just bringing up or people speaking out against Star Wars Battlefront 2 and what EA was trying to do. Hopefully that's enough for other developers to take note and not maybe be as egregious with the implementation of a loot crate or loot box system.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
That's the best thing we can hope for, honestly. Is if they just take the initiative, the gaming developers, the publishers themselves, and say, hey, we will no longer be this predatory. I mean, there's no other way to put it, but just the poor implementation of these loot boxes with Star Wars is really what caused this uproar. I mean, because we've had loot boxes for years. I mean, that it's nothing new, but it's just how it was implemented here that really got everybody stirred. Nate, what do you have to say about the gambling situation on it?
Man, I feel like the same as you guys. I mean, the government, I don't want the government anywhere near gaming. They have some weird concepts and fundamentals there. I mean, it's a lot of people that have never touched a gaming console in their lives. I feel like a community driven, network or something to regulate these loot boxes would definitely be an option that they could go that route. I don't,
Yeah.
It's just it's a touchy subject. I mean, it's something that, is relatively new in gaming, and it's just progressing, and I think that EA just took it to the limits where people just didn't accept it anymore. And I know a lot of people bring up some other games like GTA and some other stuff, like for the pay to win aspects with the shark cards and stuff like that. But the Battlefront game was just a really anticipated game, and I honestly have read some articles where it'd be kind of impossible for them to re-monetize the game. I mean, at this point, the game feels like it's dying already. But if they try to go back and re-monetize stuff, it's just going to be, I don't know. It's a lose-lose situation for EA. They've already lost billions in stock and revenue, and there's no way to take the pay to win aspect out of the game. The star cards are already there. There's a lot of people that have all purple star cards that they bought already. Those aren't gone. So
yeah,
you know,
I think the one thing we can all take from this and agree on here, at least, is that we're glad that people spoke with their wallets. And I think that if nothing else, the good that comes out of this is that hopefully companies will take notice and not try to do something so poorly implemented. You know, I think we could agree on that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I think the issue of gambling is going to be interesting because I think you're either on one side of the fence here. You either think it's gambling or you don't. I've seen arguments for both sides. I think that's going to be interesting if we see other cases like this from other developers.
And don't get it twisted. Like when I see both, I can see both sides of the argument here. I really can, because some people have brought up some really good arguments against it being gambling, and I totally get it. Like they'll tell you, well, why isn't a little coin op machine where you're putting in a quarter and you're trying to get out something random in there? Why isn't that considered gambling? And I get that. That's kind of the same thing, but when it's done digitally and it's done with tens of dollars at times, hundreds of dollars at times with these loot boxes, there's a bit of a difference there, because you can spend upwards of $100 on microtransactions. Yes,
well,
$100.
I think that's the differentiator between those coin op games you were talking about, is that level of risk.
Yeah,
and that's huge. Gambling in itself. The definition involves taking risky action in the hopes of getting some kind of desired result or outcome, and that's much different than what you described with the coin op.
Yeah,
because I've seen that argument. I'm like, well, it's not really the same, because you got to look at the degree of risk involved.
Yeah,
in gambling, typically there's a higher level of risk than putting in a quarter and trying to get whatever you're trying to get.
The same thing goes. It applies with the loot boxes. Like some people will argue against me and say, well, there is no monetary value. You can't sell that after you purchase it, so it can't be considered gambling, I guess. And I'm like, well, actually, my rebuttal to that is the fact that gamers have done this too. They've played certain games, got all the items in the games that were really sought after, and they will grind it out and do it this way, and then they'll sell whole accounts online. There's a big market for that online on eBay.
I was gonna say Counter-Strike. Yeah.
Oh, no, my son's done it with the Xbox Xbox 360. He would get maxed out all his stuff in NBA 2K, and then he sold his account for $400. So it's against the toss. It's against the terms of service, but it's still being done. People do it all the time.
I think that's happening in what's it called? What's that game?
I just outed my son, didn't I? Oh man.
Yeah, you did. I was about to say that.
Hey, World of Warcraft. People.
You don't know his name, where he lives.
Yeah, Warcraft. Yeah, you're right. Warcraft. People have been selling character classes for years. They've been selling that for like a lot of money too.
Yeah, one of my buddies at work sold his character for about $800.
I retract that story. It was not my son, guys. This was somebody I knew.
Somebody associated with your son.
Rewind. No. It's just a crazy thing that, this whole gambling thing. It's very interesting, Enrique. It's really something that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for sure.
Well, yeah, we're still the thing is we're still early into this. I mean, this is still pretty new for the industry. Yeah. And I've had a lot of conversations with Matt Piscatelli over at the MPD group.
Yeah.
About this, and he's reiterated, like, look, this isn't going anywhere. It's only going to grow, but this is still new to the industry. Yeah, so they're still trying to figure out how to implement this.
You'd have to be very naive as a gamer to think that these are going away.
What's pretty cool about on a positive note, what's pretty cool about the whole situation is they stepped on our backs, but when they started to break our bones, we said something.
And but here's the thing. We want to point out too, because we're talking very negatively on these loot boxes, which, I am negative towards them. However, there is better ways of implementation. And if it was just cosmetic, if they sold you, I would prefer a situation where you buy specific items for money. I don't like this whole situation where it's all RNG. That's not something that I really like. Yeah, I think it's it's a predatory practice. It's not a good thing. But if you do have to go that route, if that's the way you choose to do it, make it be cosmetic, please. That's all I ask.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. It's we know that's not going to happen. We are LCR.
And then we won't stop it. I want to stay home and play Xbox, but my homies keep on hitting up my inbox. Say it's been a long time since they see me, so I'm cutting.
Ooh, there's a loot chest in my sight.
Folks, we are Loot Chest Radio. We are a small podcast just trying to get off the ground, and we need your help. If you're listening to us on iTunes or have an iTunes account, please give us a rating on there. It'll make us more visible to potential listeners out there. Also, follow us on Twitter at LootChestRadio. And of course, as always, keep listening to LCR.
Welcome to Loot Chest Radio, where you can find your best loot in a chest.
Moving on, we're going to talk about December 9th, guys. Do you know what's going on December 9th?
My birthday? Nope. I'm joking.
It's the PlayStation Experience show, guys, the 9th and 10th. And our man Kevin here, Kevin will be going to that show. And
yeah.
But here's the thing. I want to get your thoughts, guys. What do you think PlayStation could be showing at this show? Any thoughts, predictions? Let's get to it.
I know.
Kevin, start with you, man.
I think what I'm hoping for, I'm being a little optimistic here. I do hope out of the 4 bangers that's coming out next year, we get a date for one.
God of War.
At least God of War, Spider-Man, Detroit, Days Gone. We need a solid date from one of them. I think that would be huge. Devil May Cry, all these speculation and rumors about it being exclusive. I didn't care if it's exclusive or not, but it would be cool to see some more gameplay, trailer, or anything of that nature of that game. Because, I think they're going back to the Devil May Cry series and not DMC, which fans weren't really happy about.
That's true.
I want to see some, I don't know, because Paris Game Week has me thinking. Like, they showed a new IP from Sucker Punch, which I thought was going to be at E3. I don't know what else they can possibly show. So anything they show, I will be excited for. But I'm really excited, man. Get to mingle with all the PlayStation dudes and just fans alike. And I'll be getting footage, and we'll definitely have some information for you guys when I come back on the show.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome, man. Can't wait to hear what you got going on there.
Yeah.
Enrique, what do you think, man? What's going to happen at PSX?
We'll get a March release date for God of War. We'll see Devil May Cry or get an announcement. We'll see Final Fantasy Remake, get an update on that.
Ooh, and Soul Calibur, maybe.
Maybe Soul Calibur, and we'll hear something about Devil May Cry.
Honestly, I don't know. I need to see some dates, for some of those, like God of War. I definitely want to see a date for that. And then Spider-Man, because, people are speculating on what game is going to be coming out or what games are going to be, pushed back.
Oh,
so
Nate wants to see those receipts. He wants to see them.
So I think Spider-Man May 2018.
It's weird because Spider-Man, it would have been nice to get that game when the movie was coming out, because it would have capitalized on the hype train there. But
yeah, man,
I that game, I'm most into, hyped for God of War and Spider-Man, but Spider-Man probably is a little bit above God of War. But yeah, Devil May Cry, do you think that that's going to be totally exclusive or like a time thing? I'm not sure on that.
If I had to guess, I'd probably say, I'll go out on a limb here and say 1 year exclusive.
Yeah, kind of like Dead Rising 4
or Tomb Raider.
What's this for? What game?
Devil May Cry.
Devil May Cry.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me, it's not even a big game either. For me personally,
I think it's gonna be exclusive.
Yeah, it could be.
I think it's gonna be a similar situation like with Street Fighter V. I don't think it's gonna.
Ooh,
I think
maybe,
Sony's gonna fund this project because we know Capcom's not going to do it.
That's true. That's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and so Sony's going to fund this, and it's going to be an exclusive on the PlayStation.
Do you think it's one of those franchises that do you think they sold it off, or?
No, I don't think they sold it off. I think that, Sony's probably, one thing I've seen with Sony more recently is that they're going back and they're kind of going, Sony has very strong relationships with developers in the industry, right?
Oh yeah.
But they're also, so they're going back and they're looking at these older titles where they can do not like reboots or not reboots per se, but like basically remakes of these games. They're doing with Shadow of Colossus. They are helping with Shenmue. What other games are they working on right now? That Ratchet and Clank, which came out last year. That was a remake, and I think they're just going back to their kind of their trove or treasure chest of games, and looking at, okay, well, what was a popular franchise years ago that we can bring back. I think the one thing that Sony does a really good job at, they do a really good job at really listening to the gaming community per se, the hardcore gaming community.
Yeah.
And just giving them the kind of games that a lot of us hardcore gamers, either talked about or would say, wow, wouldn't that be great if, we could get another Final Fantasy VII or,
you're right.
They kind of play on that nostalgia. And when they announced like Shenmue 3, I didn't necessarily agree with how they did it, but when they did it, I was like, whoa, Shenmue 3, how long have we wanted Shenmue 3?
It's been forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like that was like that was like the one franchise that just didn't feel like it ever really got a proper ending to it.
Yeah,
now since you bring this up, everything that you're saying, I kind of feel the same way about Microsoft. Like, I want a lot of those games to come back. You know what I mean? And they don't. So it's kind of, you are right. I'm just echoing what you said. It's just they pulled on our nostalgia strings and it works.
Yeah,
because with our wallets.
Because I think Microsoft looks at it from a more business standpoint, whereas Sony's looking at it from a more gamer standpoint, where they're feeding us all these different types of games, like you said, feeding off nostalgia and whatnot. And Microsoft is looking, where can I make the most money with the least amount of risk? And I think that's the problem right now.
But Sony's doing this for. Look, obviously Sony's doing this for money. They're both for-profit companies, but
yeah, I
think what Sony's doing is they're doing this because they know that it creates this brand loyalty with the PlayStation brand, or with amongst gamers.
Yeah.
And it's not new. They've been doing it for a long time, and I've always said this. Like, I've heard people say exclusives don't matter. I'm like, no, they do, because they lock people in an ecosystem. Like, Horizon Zero Dawn has sold PlayStation 5s because people are going to go out and buy a PlayStation 5 just to play the sequel for that game.
That's true. It's true. And it brings, and when you bring in exclusives like these new IPs and stuff, they bring in new players, new gamers. They come over to the PS4, the PS5, just to play these new experiences.
Do you think Microsoft would benefit from a fan fest separated from E3? A standalone show.
Yes,
I definitely think that they need to do that. Honestly, like I don't know. I've been thinking this for a while. Like, why not? Why aren't they doing this? It is the better question. They have so much they could show off. Even if you wanted to get into like E3, people thought that they focused too much on hardware at a certain point. I mean, if you want to show off some different things, it gives you that ability.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be a good thing.
It would have been a great thing to show up all those 42 games at a private showing, or for the fans, get more intimate with those new type of games, or those games that, were on PC. Now you can play them on Xbox in a few months, get people excited, get the train rolling, get the hype started.
As far as PSX, I think for me, I think the PlayStation is going to just, honestly, I don't think we're going to see too many surprises. I think we're going to see some release dates for, like you guys said, God of War, Spider-Man. I think we might see some definitely release months anyway. So, or it could even be sort of like springtime, that sort of thing. But I think we're going to get a roundabout date for some of these games. And then I think we are going to have confirmation on Devil May Cry. I'm not personally a big fan of the game, but I could definitely respect those out there that do love the game and do want to see it come back. And I totally get where you're coming from, Enrique. This is exactly the kind of stuff PlayStation does and needs to continue doing to be as successful as they have been. I mean, they are catering to the gamer right now, and that is a good thing. So
yeah, it's cool. Like last PSX, and just when Sony announces that they're coming out with something that wasn't on your radar, just that smile comes on your face from nostalgia. And I'm not saying those games are remarkable, crazy, amazing, but I mean, I want to see those beats from other companies as well. Like, something just tickles your inner gamer when you see these type of titles get announced. And that's something I want to see from all developers and all type of, publishers, like just, cater to us because we're the ones that pay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of older demographic and there's a lot of new demographic too. And I think Sony is hitting all the beats on the game drum, to me personally.
If I had to compare the two companies, I would say, like, if I was going to give an analogy, I feel like Sony is Marvel and Microsoft is DC at this point. I mean, with their movies, it feels like Sony just has the train and it rolls and it continues to roll and they keep hitting on all cylinders. And then Microsoft is kind of like DC. They keep trying some weird stuff and they don't really know, their identity, and they keep trying and trying. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the way I feel. And I'm a dude that focuses on Xbox, but that's just the way it feels to me.
I could see that. I could see what you're saying. At the same time, I like both Marvel and DC, so I'm good with that. Yeah. That's why I'm a neutral gamer, I guess.
Yeah. It's just, it's funny. Marvel just keeps popping out these bangers, man. I mean, but yeah, they're both good, but that's just my analogy, All
right.
But,
well, let's
and real quick, Sony they're already touting special announcements.
Yeah.
They said that yesterday. They came out and said fans can expect some special announcements. So that's why I think we're going to get some of those, like Devil May Cry, Soul Calibur.
Great games.
Yeah. So imagine they announced Soul Calibur 6 and Devil May Cry.
Yeah, they're pulling on the nostalgic strings there for sure.
And then they drop a March release date for God of War.
Do you guys think that they could show something about Red Dead since they have the exclusive rights to it?
Ooh, I think that actually I could see that considering the game's supposed to release in April.
If they do that, it's oh my gosh. Yeah, I cannot wait for Red Dead 2. That is my most anticipated game for 2018. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great show, guys. I think whatever they do give to us, they always present a good show. It's always, they tend to hype you up, no matter if they show you the same games that they show you at E3. It's always a hype show, and it gets people, just the buzz going, and everybody gets excited.
Stuck in Nintendo, you're the controller. Street Fighters and such, I'll finish him. I'll go through Razor. I'll finish him.
Gamer poll. All right, Nate, we polled Twitter, and we wanted to see what all the gamers thought of this week's question. What is it, and how did it turn out?
All right, gamer poll time. With the potential removal of net neutrality looming, 4K patches, and the adoption of digital game sales are on the rise, are you gamers concerned at all? The options were still buying digital, still buying physical, not concerned at all. What's net neutrality? So not surprisingly, still buying digital came in at a hot 47%. I personally am down with that answer. I actually think I answered that way. Still buying physical was at 30%. No concern at all, 13%. And what's net neutrality? That's about 11%. I think that is actually pretty, I think there's a lot more than 11% that don't know what net neutrality is. But yeah, still buying digital is the hot commodity for our poll this week.
I'm not mad at that.
Nope.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I used to be a strictly physical disc buyer. I was always the one talking against digital. Oh, it's bad. Don't ever go that route, because then DRM's going to be there, and you're. What if the company just decides they're going to stop making that console and they're just going to shut it down, and you're not going to be able to play those games again and all this stuff? But I've since changed. Like when I found out about game sharing. It changed my view, because I've saved so much money from not having to spend so much money on my kids buying second and third, copies of games. Because I used to do that for all my kids and myself or whatever. Now I buy one and we share it. It's awesome. So that's why I went digital initially.
Yeah, I mean, I think game sharing is the driving force. I mean, looking back, I was all physical. And then my friend came up to me and he's like, hey, did you know that we can game share? And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, well, if you make your console my home console. I was like, okay. So we ended up doing it, and I was like, so essentially I could pay half the money and we could get more games. It's just a win-win situation. So slowly but surely, I'm completely all digital. And the fact of the matter is, if I buy a game, like, so I'm playing Wolfenstein 2, which is an awesome game, by the way, but I'm renting that from Redbox because it was like their 15th anniversary, and I could rent it for 15 cents. So I'm playing that, on a physical disc, and it just feels weird.
Wait,
to like
15 years already?
Yeah,
What?
that's crazy, right?
That's crazy.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like if I was to buy a physical disc, I'm actually like screwing over my friend, right? Because he's not getting the advantages of that. So with game gifting and this game sharing stuff, I mean, there's not a reason.
And there's also all these services like game gifting, even Game Pass. Game Pass is another reason to go digital, because you can essentially download all these games at $10 per month and have a huge library of games there at your disposal. And my son loves it. My 12-year-old's going through some of these games that he hasn't played ever, and he's loving that Game Pass. So there's a lot of pluses to it. But the reason why we had this poll really is because of, with the whole net neutrality, the whole removal of it looming, it's really a situation where people have to be concerned, not only as gamers, but everybody should be concerned who loves the internet the way it is. It's something that it could essentially make the internet lock down and certain sites be harder to navigate or get to because of fast lanes and slow lanes and all this stuff. Enrique, what do you have to say about all this?
I used to be more digital than physical, but I've gone back to physical.
Really?
Yeah. And I'll tell you why real quick. Big shout out to my man, the Drunk Cat. Al, I don't know if you guys follow the Drunk Cat or Al on Twitter, but he put us on to GameStop has this like aggressive trading program during the summertime.
Okay. Where
like if you trade in, I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter, like it was called the GameStop flip. So like me, Italian Clowns, Eric Jackson, B Money, Al, a bunch of us were on Twitter, like basically like trying to figure out what games are giving the highest trading value. So what happens at GameStop is if you trade in like 6 games, you start like stacking up like extra trade-in percentages. Mm-hmm. And some of the games that they have that they're offering like good trading values. Like I think Spider-Man was like one of them where you could like buy the game from Walmart for like $15, but you could trade it into GameStop for like 30, right? And then like you trade in like 6 or 7 games and you get like an additional like, I don't know, like I forget what it was, like 20% or something crazy. Long story short is I traded in like probably 10 games and basically got like $400 and something in GameStop credit. Whew. There's people that were getting $1,000.
Wow.
Eric got about $800 and something, ended up using that money towards the X and a PS4 Pro.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about when they were doing this. Yeah.
That's why. And so we found out like you could actually buy some of the games cheaper from other retailers, trade them in, and you would actually end up making money by trading them to GameStop.
That's crazy.
For Persona 5, I paid $4 because I have Gamers Club Unlocked. That's the other thing. If you have like Best Buy Gamers Club Unlocked, which I encourage. Oh, this is the other reason why I started buying physical again, because GameStop would give me 20% off of game purchases, right? And then for any pre-orders, I would get a $10 rewards card or reward zone cash.
Yeah.
Towards like my next purchase. So anytime there'd be a game that I want to pick up, I pre-order it, get 20% off and $10 back, and I just use that $10 towards my next purchase.
Wow. That's cool.
So I mean, that's why I went back to physical. I mean, you just can't beat the deals that Best Buy is offering gamers right now with Gamers Club Unlocked. And then, if you can figure out how to kind of, I don't want to use the word scam because that's kind of a strong word for the GameStop thing.
Yeah.
But if you could figure out a way to buy these games at retail cheaper and make money by trading at GameStop, you come out on top. Nice.
When you hear everybody speaking on this so far, basically myself and Nate have both went to digital because of money, getting a cheaper deal and stuff. And you did the same thing by going physical. I got to respect that. You know what I'm saying? Kevin, what about you, man?
Yeah, man. Basically, I still have some type of OCD lingering around in my body. So I typically buy physical on my PlayStation 4 and all digital on my Xbox One. So I kind of get the best of both worlds, but I do, it's kind of hard. Like, I feel like digital is way more accessible. It's easy to use. I don't have to go out. Just download the game when I go to work, and when I come home, I'm ready to play. And that type of service I can't complain, But physical, I mean, there's sometimes I go in GameStop or go to other retailers and I see that $19.99 or that $12.99 for a game I never got to play, and I look on digital and it's 30, 40, 50. So there is still some strings attached to me wanting physical due to price variance. But I don't know, man. Digital is kind of winning me over. Like, I kind of don't mind spending the money on digital games.
Let me ask you, and
I think
okay. All right. So with you and Nate, I want to ask you about this digital.
What up?
With the whole thing about net neutrality and that possibly being gone, and the 4K assets you're downloading now for the X, and even just downloading games in general, how do you guys feel about continuing digital?
That's a two-piece combo right there.
Yeah, how do you feel?
Because if we're going, when we did that poll, it seems like a lot of people are doing digital games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if net neutrality becomes a thing, goes away, then they'll start throttling internet, and then you'll meet this combo where physical games are becoming no more, and it just seems like it's just a 1-2 piece combo. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like it's all doom and gloom, and it will be, because your internet being throttled, like, for gaming. Oh, you want to be a better gamer? $4.99. You know what I mean? So you'll be paying that fee on top of that, plus the digital purchase fee. You're being data capped off for your internet provider. It just seems like it's terrible, bro. Like, that is a huge problem for people, especially with the industry going digital. Oh man, it's looking scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I think it was the president of Take-Two or Rockstar, maybe it was Take-Two, said that we're definitely at a point where we're gonna go all digital, but he thinks it's probably at least to 100% go digital. He says it's probably at least 5, 10, 20 years away, but more than likely probably.
I say 10.
Probably not 20, but not 5. He said 10.
Yep. I say 10.
Yeah.
I say 10. Yeah. I think it's going to be 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
I just think that it's one of those situations where the way I see Microsoft going down the road and everything, more of a Steam box sort of thing. They've even mentioned this years ago. I don't know if you guys remember, before the Xbox One even dropped, there was an interview done, or it was right around the time the Xbox One dropped, and they were talking about how they wanted to go discless.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's in the back of all these companies' minds. They want that because it's less money to produce these games. They'll be making more money if they just go digital, and it just makes sense from a business standpoint. I'm just hoping that we reap some benefits off of that, like the Steam sales and everything else, that they've got going on PC. We're seeing more of that now. I mean, like this year during Black Friday, I think that was some of the best sales I've seen yet. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah, it was.
So it's weird that we're talking about this, but I forgot where I saw it, but I read an article. I think it was an analyst. He was like, don't be surprised, like with the next gen systems, if they come out with a SKU that it doesn't have a disk drive and it saves you a certain amount of money, depending on when, digital, because the way that they're tracking, we're talking about 10 years or whatever. But it's interesting to see in the future that it might come to the point where they're making SKUs. I'm not saying completely, like, I'm not saying that they're going to just be like, oh, PS whatever, or the next Xbox has no disk drive. They're going to what they'll probably do is make one with a disk drive for those people that don't want to give up completely the ability to get discs. But then they might give you the option, hey, you want to save $50 or whatever. You could buy the SKU that doesn't have a disk drive if you're down with that. And, it has that potential. Like, if you would have came to me and said, hey, internet speeds, you're going to be able to get, this fast. Like our internet speeds today, if you compared them with 5 years ago, it's out of this world, you know? So some of the technology has to catch up to the point where people are able to adopt these things.
Yeah.
So
we still have a lot of areas though that do not have fast internet. So
that's true.
It's still an issue. Right now we rank 17th, I believe, in the whole world when it comes to our infrastructure with the internet.
Yeah, so there's definitely room for improvement there, but I could see where this guy's coming from because, like I said, I'm pretty much completely digital, and I mean, I guess it's preference at this point, but technology seems to advance pretty fast. So I could definitely see like the 10-year timeline still, or 5 to 10 years.
Being broke, then it's staying on sick, right? Do it for my folks trying to get by. Came through the struggle with my head high. Being broke, then you know what it feel like. I said being broke made me rich. 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 Gotta keep the stove hot so it cook right. If everybody eating, that's a good night. Gotta take a loss so I took
Kevin, speaking of being broke, all these games coming out lately just has made a lot of us broke, right? Let's get into the release dates for this week, or what's releasing this week.
All right, so the releases of the week, starting off on December 1st, we got Doom VFR for the PlayStation 4 and the HTC Vive virtual reality. I don't know if that's the first in the whole game in VR, but it is and a title coming out for VR. Next up, we got Nintendo with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the Nintendo Switch. Very anticipated game for the Switch owners. And we got some DLC for Dead Rising 4, Frank's Big Package.
Whoa. Is that why you were laughing? Frank's Big Package?
Frank, hey, I'm not answering the question. After that, we got the drum roll, please. We got Destiny 2, Curse of Osiris.
Nice.
For all current platforms, PlayStation 4, Windows PC, and Xbox One. And we have the Walking Dead Telltale series, the collection. So it comes with the New Frontier, 400 Days, the Michonne, all the Walking Dead series as a whole. And that comes out on the 5th as well. Then we got December 9th, Loco Roco 2 for the PlayStation 4. This is the title from 2009. And it has a 4K update too. So
nice.
And that's it for the week, man.
Nice.
Did you mention Xenoblade?
Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
There was some sort of controversy over this game. I don't know if you guys heard, but some of the characters dressed really scantily and just over sexualization of this of gaming.
The game would pan to one of the characters, her rear end or something during a serious moment of the game or something. Jason Schreier actually tweeted it out, showed it.
Yeah,
that's odd.
It's what though. It's a Japanese game, right? Yes,
sir.
This is sort of typical with a lot of these Japanese anime.
Very suggestive, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's necessarily. It doesn't sound like it's a new thing. It's just something that
it's there again.
yeah. It's. I don't know. And as far as any of these games coming out, anybody looking forward to any of these?
I will be grabbing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Surprisingly, I need an RPG on the go. Destiny, I don't know if it's gonna pull me back in. I don't know, man. I'm still, in limbo with that one. But nothing for me, man.
Yeah, I'm not picking up Destiny.
Ooh, what?
I'm not. I'm not.
Jason,
and here's something. Here's the funny thing is, you guys know, I loved playing Destiny 2. Don't get me wrong. I put over 200 hours into the game. I loved it. But there was the end game issues that I had a big problem with. There's things that need changing that they're sort of addressing, but not completely. And the situation with the XP stuff just kind of burned me as well. And I'm going to speak with my wallet. I'm not going to buy it.
Aren't you 305 on every character farms?
Yep.
Oh man,
Nate, what do you say about this, man? Any game here you want to pick up?
It's funny because Destiny 2 would have my friends are still trying to get me to get that, because it's one of those things where they're like, oh, if you don't get it, we're, it's just like, come on, man. I tried to actually, because I was looking into it, because I actually had a friend give me some Microsoft points. So I was like, well, I need to get a game, but I looked into it, and in the store, you can't buy the DLC separate. So the Curse of Osiris is a bundle with the next the DLC that's coming out.
That's
so
not good.
They force you to buy both. So it's another one of those FU moments from Bungie and Activision, So that kind of like put the nail in the coffin for Destiny 2. So I might have thought about it if it was separate and I could actually be a consumer that actually does his research and sees if the game's good. But yeah, that game is, I don't know, man.
Wait, can you buy the DLC separate though, like at another retailer though?
I'm not sure. Digitally, I know for a fact that you can't. You have to buy them together. So
that sucks.
Yeah. It's just another way to make money.
What about PUBG?
That's not cool.
PUBG?
Oh, PUBG. Yeah, I'll be snatching that up. I game share, so I don't know. I don't remember if it's my turn to buy or his turn. So if it's my turn, I'll be buying that.
Yeah, I will have PUBG. Somebody kindly bought it for me in the community, and I thank him for doing so. It's awesome, but I can't wait to try it. I've been very interested. So I'll be seeing you on the battlefield for sure there.
Yes, sir.
Enrique, anything you're going to pick up?
Maybe depending on if I can get the DLC for Destiny 2 separate, maybe that. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it's on my list, but I'm not going to pick it up next week. I'm backlogged.
And it's
big time.
It's not the over-sexualization of the game, right? It's just that you're backlogged.
Yeah, I'm just backlogged.
Okay. What's that noise?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions.
Wow.
And I want to have them answered immediately.
Well, anytime we hear Arnold, guys, you know he means business. And he sounded serious. So let's get into some questions. And of course, if people want to send us their questions, they can send us questions by DM on Twitter at LootChestRadio or email LootChestRadio@gmail.com. Or even phone us, guys. That's right. You can call us and be heard right here on this show at 802-746-4LCR. That's 802-746-4527. Enrique, do you have those questions?
I do. And actually, this is it's a long one, but it's a really good one. This comes to us from at Dark Reaper 31 on Twitter, and he was recently playing Fallout 4 post the X patch last night. As he says, he was about 5 hours into the game and forgot that he's actually using the mods. Forgot that the mods were disabled for achievements. Having a good time playing the game, beat the game. Then he realized he didn't get any achievements.
Yeah,
and that was because of the mods being enabled. So. He said he got to thinking, and he wanted us to. He was wondering if we think, with the inclusion of achievements / trophies and the rise of loot-driven games, have we as gamers become desensitized to the sense of accomplishment from just beating a game? Yeah. Now, I think that's a great question because
me too.
Yeah, just coming from obviously a lot of us come from a time where they weren't achievements or trophies.
Of course.
I think and I just think this is an excellent question. So I'll throw it out to you guys. What do you guys think, Nate?
I think this is interesting because a lot of people that are annoying in the gaming community will judge your level of gaming or your level of being a gamer based off your gamer score. And I think this is just something that's out of touch, really, when it comes to gamers in general. I think that they equate gamer score with the level of gamer you are, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, that's sort of a byproduct from these achievements and trophies.
Yeah, it's an easy trap to fall into. But my counter argument is well, what if you're a pro FPS, like a pro COD player, and all you play is COD? You might play more hours than a person that has a huge gamer score. So technically it just depends on how you gauge what a gamer is, but it's just one of those traps that people fall into. So yeah, I mean, I think that people have become desensitized when it comes to just, getting the joy out of beating a game because, I think that they, value gamer score a little bit too much, but that's my take.
One more thing. I do want to bring a couple other points up because this was a pretty long question. He did bring a couple other things. He mentioned that, as I said, before, this generation, obviously before the 360, we didn't have, trophies and achievements. And he also said, like, we didn't need additional reasons to play or beat a game. And that's true to extent. Like, I actually hear people say, oh, I need to go back and play this game because I didn't get such and such trophies, or I need to go back and platinum this game. I've never had the need to or desire to go back and play a game because I needed to platinum it or get 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements. I've never been that gamer to play for achievements. I beat a game and then I'm like, I'm done with it. I don't want to.
I'm with you, dude. 100%. That's me. Especially like a single player experience or something. It's like once I'm done, like even if I love the game, I'm done. Like I move on. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? That's how it is. It's like a waste of my time. I could be playing the next new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, what do you think, man?
I think I'm in the minority here, man. I think achievements and trophies are very important to me. I didn't really get into them early on into the last generation, but this generation, towards the end of last and this one, I got into it. I just feel like I can never play without them now. That's why it's kind of hard for me to play. Yeah. It just gives me that validation that something is done, or a developer might put an achievement or / trophy in the game that will make you explore a certain part of the game perhaps you didn't want to get that achievement or trophy. I think that was the plan all along, was to, make you go to this secret bridge and fight the secret boss and get the achievement for doing it. They want you to explore. I think over time, achievements and trophies have gotten dumbed down just by like completing levels, but there's something happens to you when you beat a game and you get that little blink or the bloomp. You know what I mean? It just gives you validation. Like, yeah, I did it, and it feels good. And playing Nintendo, playing Mario Odyssey, getting all these moons and not feeling validated that I got them.
It's an interesting thing you point up there, Kevin. You're saying that you get validation from these things, and like I wonder if more people, like certain people, are more susceptible to be like feeling validated when they get this stuff. Because like for me, I don't get that sense. Like when it pops up, it's just like, oh, okay, I don't feel it. Like
I have to agree with Kevin, honestly. Like the point I was trying to make is people take it to extremes. Mm-hmm. But it is nice to have an achievement pop up, or to look at, I'm not hardcore about going into achievement lists, but it is nice to get achievements because, like, let's say Cuphead, for example.
Yes.
On Xbox, you kind of go into your friends list and say, hey, did you beat the devil? Did you get this achievement? Did you get the diamond one? Because a lot of people be like, yeah, I played Cuphead. And it's like, you look at them, you're like, well, really? Did you? It's just kind of, I'm a competitive guy,
Yeah.
So it's a competitive thing. And it doesn't have to be competitive. It could be a personal thing. It's just, I don't know. It's a fun little thing.
I got an interesting story about Cuphead, okay? Because it deals with this achievement thing. When I tell you guys, I don't feel that sense of validation or whatever when I see an achievement. I'm not lying. I'm telling you, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm not an achievement hunter whatsoever. However, I tried to do it with Cuphead. And the reason why I wanted to see if I could get that feeling or that sense of accomplishment. And I went after the pacifist thing. I tweeted about this too when I finally got it. And let me tell you, I did not have fun going after that achievement. I did not have fun doing it at all. I got to be honest. It bored me to tears because I just kept dying and I had to start over and over and over. Finally, when I got it, it was like, cool, I could put this up and say I got it, but I didn't feel like any better. So I'm done with chasing achievements after that. I am done.
But Fonz, you have to realize, bro, when we were growing up back in the day, you always had that lying homeboy, right? Always lying about the games he's beaten.
That's true.
Some questions. It's always suspect. You can't do that anymore. You're not running from the truth anymore. We can just find out if you're a fraud.
Yeah, that's
true. What I mean? So it's just essentially bragging rights, man.
I really think though that what I was trying to touch on earlier is key here. I think that some people are just more in tune with these achievements than others. Some really don't care, and some really do. So, and then you've got the players that just run through games as fast as possible just to beat it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a waste of money to me, bro. Unless you're getting paid as a streamer to do run throughs, or what do they call them?
Speed runs.
Speed runs. Yep. There you go. Run throughs. Yeah, speed runs. Then I could see it. But other than that, nah, bro. I'm trying to enjoy the $60 I just spent.
Me too. Mm-hmm. Me too. And I can see it, the other side of the coin to that too is that people are trying to enjoy it as much as they can. Maybe those achievements prolong the game for them, so they get more out of that $60 experience by chasing these achievements. I get that, but it's just not for me.
Great question.
Any other questions?
Yeah, that was a great question.
Any other questions there?
Yeah, we have another one from at Ashtray Gaming.
Nice, I know Ashtray. Good guy.
He wants to know what our most anticipated game for 2018 is.
I already said it already, and that's Red Dead 2. I'm going to get it out there. Red Dead Redemption is my favorite game of all time, and Red Dead Redemption 2 is my most anticipated game.
Nice.
I think for me, it'd be, honestly, Red Dead 2. It's just one of those games I've been waiting for since 2010. So, yeah, Red Dead 2 for me.
Crackdown 3 for me. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I'm about to say... No, I'm joking.
Oh, that's hey, don't make fun. We'll get a lot of hate for that.
Just kidding. Anthem, if it comes out in 2018, that's my kind of game. I mean, the shooting it just looked amazing at E3, and there's loot involved. I'm a loot shooter type of guy, so that's my type of game, man.
I'm with you.
But Red Dead's probably close second there.
Yeah, Enrique, what about you, buddy?
Oh man, that's a good question. Geez. Well, obviously Red Dead Redemption 2. That's on my list for sure. I probably have a couple though. I can't say that I have one specific game. But I would say Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War, and I would say that's probably it right now. Probably Anthem. I'll throw Anthem in there.
Spider-Man?
Oh, it's Spider-Man. Thank you. Spider-Man too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? The most intriguing game for me of 2018, one that I'm not so sure about, but I'm intrigued by, is Days Gone. Just because it's a new IP. I want to see where they're going with that, because I don't want it to turn out like another Dead Rising franchise. For me personally, Dead Rising is boring.
Yeah.
It looks a lot different. It looks a lot more serious tone. So
well, it looks like it has a story to it, at least, so it's got that going for it. But, anytime you get mindless zombies in a game, it could be hit or miss big time. Like, you never know.
I'm kind of over the whole zombie thing, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, I hear you.
Another zombie game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Kind of over it.
Happy trails to you.
So let's go ahead and wrap this up, guys, and do our outros. Nate, let's start with you. Where can people find you? What's going on with you, buddy?
Hey, you can find me on YouTube. We got the Saltiest podcast. That's on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can also find me on YouTube, Saltiest Gaming. That's not Saltiest Gamer. A lot of people make that mistake. It's an easy one to make. I tried to look for that name, but it was taken. So Saltiest Gaming. I do news and updates on the daily on my channel. It's typically Xbox news, but we do other things. I plan on doing some game walkthroughs and some game reviews in the future. So yeah, that's about it for me.
Yeah, and you're taking off pretty well too on YouTube. It's nice to see your channel growing. It's cool.
Yeah,
Enrique, where can people find you, buddy?
Well, you can find me on Twitter, Enrique at @brap_podcast, and I'm the creator and co-host of the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. You can find us on YouTube. I've had everyone on this podcast on as a guest. Well, I don't know, Salties. Have you been on Brap yet? I don't think you have. We'll have to get you on.
Yeah, we'll have to do a switch. You can come on mine. I'll come on yours.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. I know that All Day and Jay hopped in a couple weeks ago. So, but yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. I'm sorry, on YouTube or on Twitter at @brap_podcast. And look, we don't. It's just a straight gaming podcast. We don't do any of the fanboy stuff. It's myself, B Money, Eric Jackson, John, Mr. Negative, and look, we just like to get together and shoot the shit, talk some video games. On occasion, we'll have a community guest or an industry guest. We've had. Speaking of God of War, we had David Jaffe on. We've had him on. We've had Ryan McCaffrey on from IGN. We had Christian Allen, who's also a game developer. He actually worked on games like Halo Reach and Ghost Recon. And we even had Greg Kasavin from Supergiant Games. So definitely check us out.
Nice. Kevin.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, we do go live Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Cool. Kevin, what's up with you, buddy? Where can people find you?
What's up, man? You can find me at on Twitter, allday_digital. I'm always there lurking the Twitter streets. If you guys want to hit me up, feel free. My DMs are open. And yeah, you'll see me back here again next week. And I hope you guys enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, and you can find me at J Fonzarelli both on Twitter and YouTube. That's double R's, double L's, and ending in an I. That's the letter J, then Fonzarelli. You can find me there, or you can, of course, find me right here every Sunday. So we thank you very much for listening to this very first episode, guys. And until next time, keep it gaming.
You're still here? It's over.